This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to welcome to the show today Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I got Napa Hospital on my brain. So going through my father's stuff, and my dad did 31 years at the Napa State Hospital. Of course, I'm from Napa, and that's why the Zodiac case kind of intrigues me, or at least, you know, it was in my neck of the woods, that Lake Berryessa stuff.
Hopefully he worked there.
What's that?
Hopefully he worked there.
He did. He did. He totally worked there. And of course, in his stuff, and I'm not.
Definitely. It's terrible. They tell you, oh, you have a 5-year limit. No, they can keep you forever.
Oh, at the asylum?
Yeah. Yes.
I know that at one point
to get around the law. Yeah. Normally the rule is supposed to be that you can serve no more time in there than you would have gotten in the criminal matter. So say your exposure was 4 years in criminal, the most they can keep you in the institute or the asylum would be 4 years. But they have ways around it, and it's not the legislature didn't do it. I don't know. The courts have just developed ways to circumvent it.
Do they get paid for people being there?
Yeah, to keep people there longer than they're supposed to.
I know that they kept expanding. I'm going to show this picture really quick first, because this is the accepted design for the Napa State Asylum for the insane. And that's what it started out to be. Let's see if we can get that up. There we go. Thank you, Juan. So this was the original plan. And of course, I've been around long enough to know and see it be built out. They added additional facilities, in which case at one point in time, they moved everybody from the Vacaville prison that was considered psychotic and dangerous to a ward there at the Napa State Hospital. And they had like 20-foot high fences with barbed wire. And here's my little 5-foot mom going in there to clean these people's junk. Because she was a janitor there part-time as well, while my dad was working there. So it's interesting to see who they move over there. It's not just the insane, but now the criminally insane as well, which is what you're probably talking about, right?
Well, this particular person pled not guilty by reason of insanity.
Oh. So, and how many years did he get?
Indefinite. But
the
max is supposed to be the maximum you could have served in jail if you had pled guilty.
Oh, so I see what you're saying now.
And they're beyond that. They keep extending her.
Oh, geez. Well, I know that this was one of the locations that a fake phone call to a radio show or a TV show that was focusing on the Zodiac. So the patient evidently was discovered to have been a patient and not the Zodiac, but had made a call out of the Napa State Hospital to that TV show proclaiming to be the Zodiac, which kind of intrigued me. And that's why I brought this up, if only to mention that and the people that were involved with it. So Wright and Sanders were the architects, and their address at the time was 418 California Street, San Francisco. So we got San Francisco helping Napa to build this beautiful asylum.
It looks like a palace.
I know, right? Like a castle or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just a look that they go for. Is that like the stereotypical asylum look? Is that, creepy castle-like stuff? Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning. How are y'all?
We're doing good. We were just looking at, I'll show you again in case you didn't see, an architectural plan for the Napa State Hospital.
You know that all those buildings back then, they all looked like that, and it was for energy.
That's weird. Yeah,
For
it's
energy
creepy.
purposes, yeah.
And then as they built out and around and usurped more of the lands right there around it, they added different facilities, which included housing criminally insane people, on and on. But as it related to the Zodiac, one of the fake phone calls from a fake Zodiac person claiming to be the Zodiac came out of the Napa State Hospital. So that's why I brought that one up. Anyways.
And a lot of those hospitals nationwide work in concert with the CIA and the FBI to do experimental stuff on patients.
100%. The MK Ultra program was definitely, instituted in some of these facilities, and I wouldn't put it past Napa State Hospital. All right. So getting to our comments this last week, we had a Nancy Ruth Owens. I'm assuming they were talking to text when they when they actually wrote this particular comment, but it says Nan it, which I presume is supposed to say Nan it, Nanette. I don't know. That cracked me up. Bartow. Okay, I get it now. All he owns is a bunch of made up BS. And this is in reference to one of our Tom Voight episodes.
Yeah.
Interesting to hear somebody say it's a bunch of made up BS. I haven't necessarily gone as far as to say that it is made up BS, just that he owns things that no one should own and makes money off of unsolved series of crimes. Kind of the lowest of the low, while the site's intention is to muddy up the waters, create confusion, and telling outright lies about fake suspects. So really, it's not necessarily that everything is made up BS, but the way that he keeps the pot stirring and the confusion and the inability for people to actually look at a true suspect while bashing, because on his website and on his board, they're bashing these suspects they don't like or don't want to be brought to light in favor of these fake ones. So we're just trying to get that out there.
And a lot of times he's spoon-fed material, whether it's right or accurate or not. And he just regurgitates it.
He does.
And told what he can say, what he can't say, what he is to say. Yeah,
to go on and disparage Kathleen Johns about her mind and what she can or cannot remember is completely just, I mean, it's flippant at best, because she immediately describes or sees the composite of the Zodiac and says, hey, that's the guy that just took me on a ride for an hour and a half, which at that point in time is very fresh in her mind and not a chaotic situation with the exception of her escape, because he didn't really threaten her, as it's told, in the car. So other than driving around with her and not letting her go, she had a long time to stare at this individual. And then the Zodiac turns around and writes a letter saying he gave this nice woman and a baby a ride and burned the car. So he confirmed what her thoughts were. And we still have Tom Voight over here saying, oh, but she's changed her story so many. Who cares how many times she's changed it? Who cares?
Yeah, Grace Smith does her right. He presents her story as told in the book.
And it's hard to avoid the fact that the Zodiac wrote a letter in regards to it. I mean, come on.
He knew what went down and he burned the car. Yeah. So. It's the same MO or quite similar MO as to the Riverside Sherry Joe Bates.
Correct. Yep. Manipulation of the vehicle. Yeah. So
that's one of his tactics is arson. So.
Right. Yeah. By fire, by rope, by gun, by knife.
That's literally stuck in my head, that whole saying.
That's why pretty much every single unsolved murder that I have in this presentation revolves around those four things, you know, and especially if a 22 is involved where a gun is applicable. But the by fire, by knife, and I don't think that we've literally stumbled onto all. Like we talked about a fire in a cabin, which Dennis had recollected Jack talking about burning somebody in a cabin in the woods. And then I actually found an unsolved murder of a man that was burnt in a cabin in the woods. So I don't think that we've necessarily even found all of the acts that the Zodiac said you won't even recognize, because they're going to look like accidents and fakes and all of these things. So I think there's a lot more out there that can be attributed to him. A little bit in the news is this whole SBA thing with COVID. I thought this was an interesting take. So Kyle Reyes on LinkedIn had put up a news clip of basically some more fraud that we're looking at. And it says, must watch. We've now learned by Trump SBA Chief Kelly Loeffler that the Biden administration reportedly ordered employees to ignore the U.S. Treasury's do not pay list for grants, and 70% were flagged for fraud. That's how $14 billion got out the door so quickly. They ordered SBA employees to take 4 hours per applicant and not anymore. Then we come to find out in the GAO report that 70% of it was fraudulent. Now, we from day one at the SBA have come in with a zero tolerance policy on fraud, and so we began cracking down on it right away. We've already sent out 1,000 demand letters demanding that those who took the money, now these were not loans, these were grants. These were the federal government writing checks of our taxpayers' money, which is really, really upsetting because it indicated that 70% of this went to celebrities. Now, I don't know.
SBA, is that Small Business Administration?
Correct. And this was supposed to assist and help small businesses during COVID. In fact, these small businesses weren't the ones that were reaping the benefits or getting the grants. It was going to celebrities. And the do not pay list, I mean, come on, let's talk about this. If you're given 4 hours to deal with every applicant, the first check you do is the do not pay list. How long would that take? 3 seconds?
Yeah, that's crazy. 4 hours is a lot, really. Somebody say it's short, but no, 4 hours, you can get a lot done.
I would like to know who these celebrities were that they're quoting were the ones that took 70% of it, but it's $14 billion of our taxpayers' money went to people who are already rich.
Wasn't me.
But how many small businesses were put out of business during COVID? I was a small business that suffered for 3 years trying to get, claw back my way back up to the top again.
Yo también.
Here's some of the clips that they were showing. So it was basically Fox News. Now, Fox News is entertainment, guys, not news. So keep that in mind. We can't really hold too much water in them. Yeah. Well, they were sued, and I guess they settled, but they said, we're entertainment, not the news. What the F? Does that not say news? That says news. Fox News.
Did they say that?
Yeah, it was a Facebook post a very long time ago, but it was something to do with them having settled a lawsuit with another person or entity, and they claimed that they're here for entertainment, not honesty and trustworthiness.
Well, that's what they do. They always tell on themselves.
Well,
right?
Have they disclosed who these celebrities are?
No, that's what I would love to see. But we do know that Fox is owned by Rupert Murdoch, right? Yeah. So, yeah, no wonder they're not into telling the truth. But you can see some of these headlines here. Dems built a COVID fraud machine. Dems fraud machine eats your tax dollars. And Dems handed $10 billion in COVID cash to celebs.
That's
$10
great.
billion to people who are already rich. Okay.
I hope they die.
Small businesses, right? While small businesses are going out of business left and right.
Yeah.
All right, climbing back onto the Tom Voight train here, we have Sherry Jo Bates, 1224, question mark, Riverside and the Radian. Now, the Radian does travel right on through Riverside and all the way down into the LA area. So I want everybody to keep in mind when we go back as far as Black Dahlia and the Riverside killings and things like that, that this is in play via the cryptic messages having to do with the Radians sent by the Zodiac. So the following letter.
The base of the Radians is Mount Diablo, correct?
Correct. Yes, that's our pivotal point. And then off of that, he labeled it 12, 3, 6, 9. So basically you had, it almost looks like a clock, if you will, but then we know navigation is based off of a watch. You can actually do your latitude and longitude based off of a watch with hands, that is, not a digital watch. These days I got to remember some people don't remember those watches. Yeah. Now I'm wondering if 1224 was, if it serves me correctly, 1224 being the time that the watch that was found at the Bates scene was broken at. So it was stopped, I believe, at 1224, and that's why they believe that's when or around the time the murder occurred. But that doesn't sound right because she came out of the library around 9, And I think they thought that it happened more closer to 10:30. So this kind of reminds me of the late night walk of the Swindles, and it takes me back to the Swindles again as a possibility of where that watch came from and being dropped as a clue at Sherry Jo Bates.
Well, it is a clue, but we don't know what the significance is. It probably was not the time. I think you're right about the time. I think she died earlier than that. But there's a reason that it was set to 12:24. We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
Well, it was dead at 12:24, so it wasn't that it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it says the following letter to Riverside Police Department was copied to me recently by Mike R. of New Jersey. With the author's permission, I am reprinting it here as a historical document, edited slightly for privacy. It provides a new theory regarding the time shown on the watch found at the Riverside crime scene and submits that the radian had been planned out as early as 1966. Responses may be made at the news group alt.true-crime, where they will be dissected mercilessly by a panel of self-appointed experts, or through the email link below, whence they will be forwarded to the author. Hence, like, I don't know why that just tickled me. So basically, here is the November 12th, 1998, Chief Jerry Carroll, Riverside Police Department, Riverside, California. Dear sir, I'm sending you this letter after consultation with my brother John, a sergeant in the New York City Police Department. When you read what it is in reference to, I'm sure you will utter a few choice expletives, hopefully mild ones. Nevertheless, it is my sincere hope that you will read the letter in its entirety, and that after doing so, you will find what I have to say intriguing enough to give it some honest thought. That is all I could ask of you and your department. This letter is in reference to the October 30th, 1966 murder of Sherry Jo Bates. I'm certain you must wish at some level that you and your department had never heard of this crime or of the Zodiac killer. Undoubtedly, it has been a major distraction and a source of innumerable headaches for the RPD over the years. I realize that and hope to add intelligent, not unintelligible thought to the discussion of the case. In spite of all the headaches and wild theories over the years, I'm sure that there is some part of you and the RPD in general who would love to know who killed Miss Bates all those years ago. If it was Zodiac, so be it. If not, then who? I do not pretend to know who killed Miss Bates, but I think I have found a way to help your department get insight into who it may have been by using a piece of tangible physical evidence that is in your possession, the Timex watch. One of the most controversial aspects of the Zodiac case is the radian theory. Many people scoff at this as being part of Zodiac's plan. I feel that the theory is a valid issue for one reason. Zodiac himself implied in one of his own letters that he was constructing this shape with his murder sites. And after all, he did take incredible risks to make the cab driver Stein go into a populated residential neighborhood before killing him. Knowing that he needed to kill him in a specific location goes a long way to explain the risk Zodiac took that night. The problem with the radian is that it is first explained in a very complex and out there book. I grant you that. But we must realize that Garth Penn did not devise the radian scheme himself. He was merely the first to demonstrate it on paper at Zodiac's prodding. I do not agree with much of the out there stuff that Penn says, but I strongly believe that we ignore the radian at our own risk, as it is an important aspect of the case. I also believe that Sherry Jo Bates tied into the radian and that the Timex is the link between her, the radian, and Zodiac. I hope you will entertain my thoughts on this subject. If the Timex were planted to tie Bates into the other crimes, it was an act of incredible cunning and pre-planning, because the other crimes were still over 2 years in the future. I believe that confirming this would provide us tremendous insight into the Zodiac's mind.
I first became a good take, but it's a really long paragraph.
What's that? This is a letter that was
a long paragraph.
It's a letter that was written to the Riverside Police Department from somebody who was making a tie together of Sherry Jo Bates and Zodiac. He says, I first became seriously interested in the Zodiac case and heard of the radian theory early this past August. I'm not an obsessed long-term follower of this case, but a serious, well-educated researcher. I then saw the Riverside Timex via email on August 28, 1998. I didn't look at it for 10 seconds when I knew it was tied into the radian from the Bay Area, and I did it with junior high school math. I'm not Garth Penn. Oh, that cracks me up. A radian is an angle between 57 and 58 degrees. This is the actual angle made when you link the Vallejo San Francisco murder sites with the point or apex of the angle placed on Mount Diablo, as Zodiac, not Penn, instructs you to do. If you extend the north-south segment of the angle southwards, it passes directly through the city of Riverside. See the illustration below. It serves to call our attention to Bates like a big arrow and seems to be much more than just a coincidence. Finally, a straight line is 180 degrees. Using that knowledge, we can tie the radian to the watch to get a straight line 180 degrees, starting with the radian angles 57, 58 degrees. You must add 122 to 123 degrees. An alternative way of expressing 122 to 123 degrees is 122-123. That is the exact time on the Timex. 1223. Huh. This is the link between Bates and Northern California. What Zodiac may have been saying is that in the future, after he finished constructing the radian up north, you could link the murder of Bates by creating a straight line backwards by adding the time on the watch.
Okay, I got you back.
It says what Zodiac may have been what Zodiac may have been saying is that in the future, after he finished constructing the radian up north, you could link the murder of Bates by creating a straight line backwards by adding the time on the watch. What are you doing, Nolan? I think you're freezing because you're popping up in the middle of my sentences as if you're not hearing me. You might want to back out and come back in. What Zodiac may have been saying is that in the future, after he finished constructing the radian up north, you could link the murder of Bates by creating a straight line backwards by adding the time on the watch to the radian angle. He was giving us a roadmap 2 years in advance. I understand that RPD is currently of the belief that Bates was not Zodiac victim, but I believe that the Timex may prove otherwise. I believe the watch has a story to tell us. I am submitting the following list of questions to you and hope you will examine the watch and answer them. This case is over 30 years old, and yet after all that time, we now have a chance to use a real piece of tangible physical evidence to link Zodiac to Bates. There are no outlandish theories or complex calculations involved here. I believe that at this point in time, it is worth answering these questions if it will possibly provide us once and for all with the truth about the death of Sherry Jo Bates and insight into the calculating mind of the Zodiac. Here are the questions. Number 1, was the watch definitely stopped when it was found? Do the pictures of the watch, which I have been circulated on the internet, reflect the time it showed when found on October 31st, 1966, 12:23 or so? I.e., was it subsequently wound, tested, reset by law enforcement in Riverside, San Francisco, DOJ, or the FBI? Are there photos, reports indicating whether it was found face up or face down and the time it showed? Does it have a luminescent face or luminescent numerals? If it was found face up, if the face had luminescent qualities, might we make a case for killer having no reason to be unable to locate it that night? Might this add credence to the idea that it was his intent to leave it behind? And if so, why? Was the watch ever taken apart by your department or anyone else and examined? Was the back plate ever removed and the internal mechanism examined? Is there any writing on the inside of the back plate that might link it to Zodiac? If the watch was dismantled, was it in working order that night, or was there any evidence it was disabled in any way, mainspring removed, etc.? If disabled, it was surely left with the intention of being found with the hands at whatever position the killer set them to. I realize that this list may be a bit dizzying in its detail, but this watch could prove to be a key piece of evidence in establishing Zodiac's motive for killing Bates, not as a sex crime, but as a seemingly random act, which was in fact related to his overall scheme, similar to all but one of his other attacks. Zodiac was an intelligent and cunning person, and it should surprise no one familiar with this case to learn that he may have planted that watch and then run his fingers along the ground to make it appear he was looking for it. If we are ever to have any hope of unmasking Zodiac at this late date, we must be able to profile and understand him as precisely as possible. I hope you agree with me that finding a tool to help strip this crime of the sexual overtones suggested in the confession letter to your department would change our image profile of Zodiac and at least put us on a better path to his door, whoever and wherever he is. And after all, Zodiac's later crimes hardly revealed him to be a sexual sadist. He killed men and women and ended his reign of terror by killing a lone male cabbie. Therefore, the letter would prove to be a red herring, sent for the purpose of making us think Zodiac was a common sexual sadist when his motives were actually far more complex. Chief Carroll, I realize that the murder of Sherry Jo Bates took place a long time ago, but a murder case, as they say, is never closed until the killer is brought to justice. The Zodiac case is arguably the most intriguing, complex, and baffling case in the history of crime in this country. Well, I wonder why, because Hollywood and media and the likes of Tom Voight have kept us stirring in circles instead of actively looking for the suspect or even allowing the investigation to proceed on a very good and valid suspect such as Jack Terrence.
I think this guy's a pretty good detective.
Yeah, me too. I was going to say this. He has some good questions, and it seems like he was on the right path.
Right.
Yes.
It says in the next few days, Zodiac will be featured on America's Most Wanted 11/14/98. Ding, 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 ding. So this is our first introduction with John Walsh, right? The Zodiac, Tom Voight. And I'm not sure, I want to say that Bart was around for this, but I'm not sure. I do know that he had been invited on. He had looked at the letters. I'm just not really sure what the time frame was. But I had thought that it was around this time as well. And that's how he knew who Dennis Kaufman was, is his close ties with Tom Voight. Because when I first mentioned Dennis Kaufman and Jack Terrence, Bart Baggett was completely aware of who I was talking about. And that's odd, right? I mean, if you're not all up in the cover up trying to put out fake suspects such as Deborah Perez, how do you know about my suspect, which I had never even so much as heard of until the day he came to me? Or should I say the client, Dennis Kaufman.
Oh, just on the side, I was listening to the Ice Cube CD, America's Most Wanted, yesterday. It's his debut CD after NWA. That's the name of America's Most Wanted.
Oh, so
America with a K, though.
Wow.
Right. So in the next few days, Zodiac will be featured on America's Most Wanted 11/14/98. Is going to be the subject of a new feature movie. Go figure, and will be the subject of several new books. In short, the case still haunts us, even after all these years. It is for that reason that the search for Zodiac will and should continue as long as there is at least some reasonable hope of apprehending him. I believe that your department, Vallejo, and the FBI would still have an interest in knowing just who this man was and how he was capable of doing what he did, even though it all occurred well over a generation ago. Like Jack the Ripper, it has become a timeless mystery, which begs to be solved.
That's funny. He uses the name Jack.
I know. I just can't get over some of these missives. Just kill me.
Okay, so he wrote this to the police department before it aired.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he wrote this to Riverside Police Department before America's Most Wanted had aired, but he's obviously privy to all the things that are happening surrounding this case. So here we are busily making movies and doing shows and writing books instead of actively investigating. And now I know Dennis doesn't come about until 2000.
I think, especially so many years afterwards, that he's still invested and still firing off good takes to the cops.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, and Dennis doesn't see this Zodiac, America's Most Wanted, until 2000. So Jack has not been put on the pedestal yet for anybody to look at. But from that time forward, it seems that San Francisco PD wanted to dismiss it. Tom Voight wanted to dismiss it. I mean, the FBI didn't dismiss it. In fact, again, like I said, they still are in possession of all of the evidence, including the hood. They gave nothing back. So yes. I don't know where it sits these days.
I think by the FBI dismissing it and the San Francisco and other law enforcement, I don't think that's a bad thing for our take, because I think it adds credence to what we might be onto the truth. So
well, but yeah, it does. But the FBI didn't dismiss it; took it very serious. Worked with Dennis Kaufman from 2000 when Jack was turned in as a suspect, until, at least my knowledge, when Dennis moved away in 2013, had been working all those years. And I know that from 2009 until 2012, I believe it was approximately 3 years that we were back and forth at the FBI's office. That the FBI took Jack Terrence as a suspect very seriously, but couldn't get cooperation from any of the other departments, such as San Francisco PD, in order to do the DNA test properly. SFPD gets busted that their lab has been altering and botching tests and stealing drugs and doing all kinds of crazy stuff under Gerald Brown's take, and he had to come out and smack him on the butt and fire a bunch of people. But so all kinds of nasty, shisty things were going on in the 2000s.
It's also possible that the FBI was using Dennis and to gather evidence and to conceal it.
Exactly. And that's what I feel like.
Giving lip service to his claims and his suspect and doing, initial investigations. But I think they more wanted to get from him than they gave to you guys.
Yeah.
100%. And some of the excuses that they gave us were BS. And I know that for a fact.
Was the hood that they're still in possession of, is that the one that Dennis gave him?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the one that was found in the PA system that Jack had owned.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's on the Aphrodite Jones episode.
Yes, True Crimes.
Yeah,
for investigation discovery. So he goes on to say, thank you for your time and for your kind consideration of this letter. I feel that if it can be proven that the watch was left behind for a reason, we should make every effort to allow it to tell us its story. To what extent this was done in the past, I do not know. It is a part of the thorough investigation necessary to find him as this late date. I have included an illustration of my discussion of the radian for your examination. I think that a picture is worth 1,000 words in this case. Sincerely yours, Mike R.
Wow, I wish we had that picture.
Right? Yeah, some of the images, and I didn't have any links for that whole entire letter. So I have no idea what letter it is because there wasn't even a link to go to it. At least not on what was left over on the Wayback Machine after Tom Voight stripped everything. So maybe this is one of the things he stripped because the narrative was going to change. They wanted to start bifurcating the Sherry Joe Bates as part of the Zodiac crimes theory. And we saw that starting to happen, I want to say, in 2020 when they wanted to say, oh, it wasn't a military person or it wasn't related. They came out with all kinds of BS. And that's just because they can change the narrative because nobody knows history. They don't really know where all this started and where it has gone to and what has been said by different police departments. So the new generation is just going to hear what they hear right now.
Yep.
I think another significant clue is in the one of the letters written. I don't know if it went to the cops or to the newspaper that Bates had to die. So in other words, she wasn't randomly selected as a murder victim or just conveniently picked. She was chosen.
Right.
And it's also a fact that her father had ties to the military industrial complex, correct?
Yeah.
In Novato, yes, correct.
Okay.
There was a point definitely being made.
That's a clue too. Why did she have to die?
And we have that in his letter, but we also have him making these statements in actual crimes as witnesses, have come forth to say that, he made reference to had to, need to, don't want to do this, but have to do this kind of, mentality.
As far as his acts, yes.
Yes. Yes.
As if, it just was something inside him, or if he was conditioned, who knows,
Well, I think he was conditioned, and I think that he was given certain people to take out. And so it could have been like a hit, within her family against her family or father, in the military, because we know how nefarious the military is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good Lord. How come?
Along with the Swindells and the couple over near the Santa Barbara area, Lompoc Coast, past Lompoc. I forget their names. One of them has like a Latino surname. But anyway, all those, I think, were like trial runs for the ultimate Zodiac spree.
Yeah.
Right. And here now I'm looking at this list of letters and I keep going back and forth because I feel like I never know what Voight's last name really is and how it's really spelled. I corrected myself thinking that after seeing it on his website information that it was Voight, but now I'm seeing next to all three envelopes to the Riverside Press and Joseph Bates sent April 1967. is attributed to Voight actually having these letters, and he spells it here Voigt. So I don't know if somebody else is writing his stuff or which version of his name is his real name. Kind of makes me feel like Jack Terrence.
There's
what's that?
There's 3 different ways to spell Voight. With the G, because the G takes the place of the H, or the GH was the same sound and just two letters. And there's like the football Voight, Voit.
Huh. Good old English language. I'm just saying, I wanted to be accurate on here, and I keep changing and thinking I found how it's supposed to be spelt, and then once again I see it spelled opposite of how I'm doing it. So it's not that I mean to slaughter your name, Voight, but evidently it's all over your board in a different way each time.
I would stay with a Voigt for now.
Well, and I have GH because I found GH and then thought, oh, I had it as GT to begin with. Now I've got it wrong. I'm going to change it to GH. Now I think I need to go back and change it to GT. Yeah. Voight.
I wouldn't worry about it.
I'm going to just start spelling it Voit. Let's just get rid of the GH. It's totally not necessary.
It's a football.
Here's a list of letters, and these are the links that take you to the actual letters, which some of them I inserted, but I wasn't going to have us go all the way back through or over every single one of these letters, but you can actually see who he attributes them to. So the confession letter came from the Riverside Press Enterprise. The desktop poem was from Graysmith. Bates Had to Die, also from Graysmith. All 3 envelopes to the Riverside PD Press and Joseph Bates sent April 1967 are attributed to Voight. How he gets his hands on them, I don't know, once again. The Vallejo Times Herald cryptogram cover letter. So we see all of the different types of letters that he has listed on his board here, and then you could go and see those letters. And I'm sure I've got them up somewhere as well. Other documents and photographs. The 8 known Zodiac victims by Time Life and Voight. I know, but this may be the inclusion of Sherry Jo Bates, because you got to remember this is what he's saying in 1998, right? So I would call it 8 at that point. Watch
and
found
6
at Riverside.
died, 2 lived.
Right, but they're all still victims. They're all victims of the Zodiac. Yes. So he mentions the watch, a close-up of the watch. The Lake Herman Road crime scene with chalk outline is owed to Butterfield. Butterfield's another one of those people in this industry that has, I think, done enough to stir the pot, maybe former FBI or some type of law enforcement. Photographic map of the eastern Vallejo area showing Blue Rock Springs and Lake Herman Road. And then photos from Lake Berryessa, including area of attack, is from Time Life, and a car door inscription is from Graysmith. 2 rare police sketches of the Zodiac for Napa and Sonoma counties are from Voight. So here's the funny thing, is that Voight came out and tried to tell us that the sketch from Sonoma County, which is dead on, like you cannot mistake the Sonoma County composite for for anybody other than Jack Terrence. He is an absolute 100% match to that composite. And when Dennis tried to get this composite out, Voight and his cronies began slamming Dennis, saying that that wasn't even done by Sonoma County. But here it is on his board: 2 rare police sketches of the Zodiac from Napa and Sonoma counties.
Wow.
San Francisco.
The composite that sticks out in my mind the most, anyways, like in general, even if I didn't know anything. So I mean, yeah, and when you put it up to Jack's picture, it's like
the lowered eye, the forehead, the hair, the style, everything was absolutely perfect.
I think Jack's face is just a little longer, but that's easy to get. It's a composite. It's not a picture.
Which composite are you thinking of, Nolan? Because we're talking about the shorter. The Sonoma County composite is like with the hair. It's not slicked back like we see the San Francisco composite from Officer Fultz.
It's a different composite then. Yeah,
it is. And of course, when we were working and putting that side by side on Jack's pictures, that's when we were getting slammed by Tom and his cronies, saying that was done by some I think investigative journalist out of another state somewhere. But he shows it right here in 1998. So again, they're trying to steer that pot push away this notion because now Jack's been identified. That composite matches too closely. This was drawn by somebody that doesn't even know what they're talking about. Okay, whatever. I'm sorry that it matches Jack, guys, and the handwriting matches too. What do you want me to say?
Exactly.
San Francisco exam. Go ahead.
Just so like refresh, but
the what?
That composite, just to refresh people's memory.
It was. I think that it was a more in-depth attempt at creating a composite, and the likeness is just absolutely uncanny. It's not, oh, could it match 5 or 10 different people? No, this could match only Jack Terrence when you put them side by side.
Sonoma, not Solano?
Sonoma County. Because we had the hitchhiker murders in that area.
Right, but there was no Zodiac murders in Sonoma County. Although there were murders that Jack may have done up there, a lot of along the river and whatnot. Lots of Santa Rosa, that area.
Well, Graysmith attributes the hitchhiker. Graysmith attributes the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders to the Zodiac in his books. Okay. So I think that's where Sonoma County gets involved, obviously, out there in that area. Got a San Francisco Examiner article about the Kathleen Johns incident, a map showing the radian and giant Z. Radians, degrees, minutes, and seconds by Macmillan. Forest Pines advertisement, a neon sign for Zodiac watches in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Photos from Riverside Community College, and a 1966 Ford Zodiac. Photos contributed by a reader. So I wonder what the 1966 Ford Zodiac, because this may be where that gentleman I spoke to a week and a half or so ago thought that a Ford Mustang was mentioned. So this is the first time I'm seeing Ford, because I told the gentleman I hadn't heard anything about a Ford. But it is also not telling me what make the vehicle is. It just says a 1966 Ford.
Is that not the van?
What van?
The van that Jack had? Was it not a Ford?
Jack didn't have a van that I know of.
And I never heard of a Ford Zodiac, personally. I heard of Mustang.
No, I don't think Zodiac is the make.
Okay.
1966 Ford Zodiac. Why? I think I did some.
What does that mean? I don't know what it means.
Right. I did some looking up of emblems, and I feel like I did find an emblem for a vehicle that was a Zodiac. I'm gonna have to go back and follow that line again. Again, there's so many holes you can go down here.
Right.
Here we go. Sonoma County composite. What? So here is the Sonoma County composite.
That's okay. Yeah.
That's Jack all day long. Like anybody try to argue me anything different, like that is absolutely 100% Jack all day long. And of course, these other pictures, Dennis likened to Denny, Jack's biological son, much younger individual. But I also shared that Jack's brother, Donald, looked a lot like Denny when he was a kid. So
and it was his younger brother, right?
Yes, it was definitely his younger brother. And by the girth that was described of this second suspect at Lake Berryessa, I wondered if it could even possibly have been Denny, because Denny was a very skinny kid when he was in Vietnam. His pictures show him he's very thin. He's not, a bulky type person. So
I don't think it would have been Denny.
Yeah. So I did have some of these other URLs. I've not seen and do not have. I needed to check Graysmith's book on some of these particular communications. Voight Manson murders connection. So Voight back then was even showing that Manson had a connection. The myhandwriting.com celebs, which is Voight and Bart Baggett, that shows their inclusion. So now we've got two people who are putting forth false suspects. I want you guys to understand that there is a rhyme and reason to what we see going on here, why these individuals are attributed to each other, and their need to help Hollyweird put out fake suspects.
Interesting.
It can't be to just make money, because you're not going to make a lot of money off of a documentary, and highly likely not going to make a lot of money off of a book. I know that Bart Baggett has produced many books. He obviously hasn't gotten rich off of it.
I would like to see more of Voight's Manson murders connection, because, as you know, that's one of my areas I study, is the whole Manson thing.
Well, I think that
mind control. That's also the bigger picture of that is mind control. But also, in the Ultimate Angel, Maury Terry and Son of Sam mentions Manson and has a little bit about Manson there too. I think this is the area in which Satanism, mind control.
Well, I think this is the area in which the CIA and the media is perpetrating the notion of cult and satanic rituals and beliefs through these acts. They're creating it, just like I feel like they created the serial killer. Yes, did we have serial killers long before Jack? We absolutely did. We had people burying people in their backyard in Texas since the dawn of the ages. But did we know what they were, how to sensationalize them, give them a name such as a serial killer? Did we know all of this stuff until these programs were set in play to obviously set up the design for others to follow?
Literally, that's the key word. It's their design.
Design, exactly.
Right. So and I think one of the early ones was, of course, one of the early ones was Jack the Ripper, but he wasn't called a serial killer. It came into fashion in I think the 60s, that term, and Albert DeSalvo, who was blamed for the claimed to be the Boston Strangler, that it came into vogue after him.
Well,
and F. Lee Bailey was his lawyer too.
Yeah, again. Go ahead, Lindsay.
I looked up a list one day because I wanted to write down every single serial killer that was known to man, that they have reported on, and literally Jack the Ripper is listed as one of the serial killers. So it's now they're calling him a serial killer, even though they weren't. But then if you look at the victims, because I also did a chart where I put the victims of how many they are associated with. Like you said, I think Jack the Ripper was 3, maybe 2, and then there was also another one. I think Albert Fish?
In England, or where?
It was the very first one that's listed. It's Albert something, but got a top hat on in his picture. And his was
I thought Jack the Ripper was more than 2 or 3. I thought Jack the Ripper was.
Yeah, it was about 5 or 6, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was a little more substantial.
Yeah.
I don't think they call you a serial killer until after 3. I just got this notion. I've been watching. Again, I think it's the world's most dangerous criminals or something like that, and I'm done listening to it because I'm hearing this repetitive nonsense from the psychotherapist and the inmate or the good gosh, the people. I can't
say a word.
No, I don't know why I'm losing it, because I've been listening to it for the last several days and I just finally stopped. I'm if you guys know that these people are repeat offenders who end up in prison and then continue to murder not only innocent, people that are working at the prison, but others as well, trying to escape or doing whatever, and other inmates that they're killing, that these people don't deserve to be alive, and the rest of the population doesn't deserve to be subjected to them. Put these people out of their freaking misery and out of our misery, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well,
give me a gun.
What's that?
At that point, they
go ahead.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I said at that point they still need to use them for something if they're letting out like that so easily.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. I mean, somebody who kills, I don't think that, unless it was an accidental death, I don't think that they can ever be rehabilitated from that.
Yeah.
So stop telling us what a poor childhood they had and what may have contributed to the acts that they're doing, and let's just get rid of them. Let's be done. Last thing on this slide, it says second and final letter sent to the Vallejo Times-Herald, 7 August 1970. This is the only section of the letter to be published by Grace Smith. It's a composite of Sonoma County. composite sketches of the zodiac from Sonoma and Napa counties. It is unknown why Sonoma County would issue a zodiac sketch, as no zodiac crimes are acknowledged in that area. So this goes further to instill that notion that Sonoma County is the one that did and initiated this sketch as of 1998. I think that is about all we have, you guys. Is there anything last minute you'd like to say?
Have a good time this weekend and ready.
Thank you. You have a great time on the river.
Oh, I hope to get out there one way or another.
Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being here, and we will see you back next Friday.
See you next Friday. Peace.
Peace.
Oh,